Coach Raw, what's happening? So you're still out in California?
Yes, sir. We're out here for actually 2 full weeks. This week was good. We got to do some open water swimming with some of our triathletes, got some off-road runs with our running clients, got to actually swim with some sea lions here in the San Diego Bay. So it was pretty cool. Right there at the La Jolla Bay, for those of you that know San Diego.
Dude,
Yeah.
Careful. Those things get grumpy. You don't want to get too close to those things.
We kind of have the same joke at home. You only have to be faster than one other person.
They're not gators. They're not gators. I don't think they're gators. You probably get away from one. They're going to mess you up. I don't know if they're going to murder you like a gator will. Holy moly. Those gators look grumpy.
It's just absolutely beautiful out here. I mean, Michaela and I, it's crazy because, with the time change, I have to kind of move my call schedule up earlier with my clients, but we're done by 3:30, 4 o'clock, and we go out and we run, and it's 72 degrees. And we were commenting how it's nice to actually focus on running instead of just not succumbing to the heat. There's a distinct difference of being able to actually run fast. And, there's some undulations. We did a run today. Doesn't sound like much to somebody in the mountains, but I think it was like 700-800 feet of climbing. But, from a Floridian standpoint, those rollers, they whip our ass pretty good. So, but it's nice to focus on running fast in the hills and not be like, oh, we just have to try to get to the finish line without, croaking. So it's good.
I wouldn't know what that's like. It's 100 and something out here, 115, whatever it is. It's ridiculous.
I don't know how you guys are doing it. You guys, most of you don't even have AC out there.
No, everyone has AC.
Oh, do they? Okay.
I don't know anyone who doesn't have AC. Then if it breaks, you panic. So
what's funny, out here in San Diego, a lot of people don't. So that was a bad assumption on my bad. And it's funny. Remember when we were in Vermont?
Yeah.
Nobody had AC out there. And I don't know if we're dragging the heat around the country, but we went to Vermont. They had an abnormal heat wave. We come to San Diego. Our Airbnb host is like, it's never been this warm. And I'm like, I swear it's following us, because we went to Vermont. Nobody has AC. We're out here in San Diego where nobody's supposed to need AC. And it's like, I think today it was 91 degrees during the middle of the day in San Diego.
Dude, that's epic. That's epic right there.
So, but no, it's good. But good to see you, man. Happy Sunday, and happy hello to all of our listeners. Thank you so much for giving us your time on a Sunday.
Dude, how about the race? We're talking Millville.
Beautiful.
Justin Barsha, as soon as I describe how bad all the steel frame bikes are, what does he do? Justin goes out and wins. But that wasn't the bike. That was just pure grit. Justin Barsha being an absolute savage on that bike. He rode the wheels off of it. What'd you think, Coach?
Just epic. It brings back, almost back to the CRF 150 days with Barsha, where he was fearless, rode the wheels off the bike. I know I mentioned this in our last show together. I firmly believe Will Hahn has a big, significant role in this. It's almost like you see a new disposition of Barsha. You know what I mean? Barsha, he's been trying so long to get Will over there. It just seems like in the last 2 weeks, we're seeing that Barsha of old. Then you add, he's got, some athletic maturity underneath his belt. I could sit and watch that. I wish we had 6 motos of Barsha doing that, whether it was the big whips or just, completely sending it on those downhills. He looked fantastic. Enjoyed it.
Okay. I have a question for you. So
yeah,
Will's over there and he's the new trainer, right?
Yep.
Is that his trainer, riding coach? Is he going to the races? I don't understand how you could have that much of an effect in 2 weeks. But I mean, you can't argue. I mean, look at all those guys, Bozeman in the 250, him in the 450. Like, is it just that? I don't know. I'm struggling to give Will all the credit, but it sure looks good.
Yeah, I don't want to give him all the credit. I just know that Barsha has been all but begging for Will to come over there. And, for obvious reasons, Will was committed to Star and all of that. But it's incredibly ironic timing. And like you and I teased about last week with Hopper, okay, you can correlation, causation. Okay, we give him benefit of the doubt. Now 2 weekends back to back, Mosiman gets his first podium, race like an absolute boss. We'll get to Mosiman a little bit later, but you can't take it away from Mosiman. That downhill into that right-hander, just freaking sticking it in there. Barsha was riding the same way. I appreciate Barsha giving hey, sorry to Ferrandis. It wasn't really an intentional thing. It just shows a lot of maturity. I don't know, again, how much Will Hahn is driving that ship, but boy, there seems to be a complete momentum shift since he has gotten over there, literally in the last 2 weeks. And look at the difference between between you making fun of it and then Will going, and then Barsha has 2 good weekends. So, hey, they just want to make us look goofy. What can we say?
Well, have you ever seen when like a team fires the coach and everyone's like, well, it wasn't the coach's fault, but they always do better right off the bat, right?
Absolutely.
Sometimes change just spurs something.
it's new, right?
It is. It's just new blood, new attitude, new something. Not even doing anything different. It just, sometimes it can just change. And that's probably, because I personally don't believe in 2 weeks you can implement a process to make them that much better, other than just bringing in kind of a little bit new attitude, which sometimes that attitude might be, maybe that's it.
Well, in the fact that Barsha's wanted Will Hahn for forever, they both have been very vocal about it, that, they've been asking.
That sounded so bad the way you said that, Coach.
Yeah. Well, but what I think is cool is it's almost like you and Hopper and I going to a races. You and I, we know each other well enough. We'd feel more comfortable going to the races. I'm not saying that Barsha wasn't comfortable at Gas. Troy Lee's a great guy. Tyler Keefe's, does a relatively good job from a team management standpoint. I don't even know Tyler. I'm just saying, based on what we've seen and what we've heard, I don't, like you say, I don't think Will brought anything magical. He didn't bring a magic wand, or he didn't bring magic potion. I think it was just kind of like Barsha's like, yes, I've got my dude here, and it's creating that environment of success. And you and I've talked a lot about that off the record. It's amazing how one person can make or break an environment. Think about when you had, just say it was you and your dad going racing, and all of a sudden, Uncle Billy shows up and he's just a blowhard. He's a screamer. He's an alcoholic, all that goes into it. You're like, Dad, can we leave Billy at home? Cause he's kind of taken away from the environment. I'm not saying there was that negative environment at Gas.
Did Gas leave Billy at home?
Well, I think they left Billy at home and they brought Will in. And because Barsha's been so vocal about wanting Will there, Will's so chill. For anybody that hasn't or doesn't know Will Hahn very well, if you want to really get to know him, go watch the Whiskey Throttle show for over 3 hours. Will Hahn is he is probably the most transparent guy I've ever seen on Whiskey Throttle. He's not a bullshit artist. He talks about him and his brother. He talks about his brother being better. I just, the experience, and again, just kind of that level-headed side that Will brings to the table. It sure has worked out well these last 2 rounds for both 450, 250 for the Gas camp. And can you imagine how pissed off KTM is? Oh,
it got worse for them. And we'll get to that one. But
big momentum shift.
Yes. Before we get to KTM, I want to talk about Adam Cianciarulo. I think he's done for the year. I think that this hand going numb on him is a bigger issue than people are making out. And we talked about it a few weeks ago, how it could be career ending, and everyone's like, oh, it's 95% success rate. Well, that was 95% last year when they did the surgery.
Yeah. Why didn't he come after the second moto? I never heard.
I don't know. It looked to me like that was just it. Because if your hand's going numb, that crash looked to be because of the hand.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. To me, I would guess he's probably calling it a season, going to go try and get that fixed. That just shows you how important it is. I don't see why he wouldn't come out if there's any other reason than that. And I checked and I couldn't find anything on it. So
yeah, I couldn't find anything either. That's why I was curious if maybe you heard something that I hadn't seen or heard, but I can't get a pulse on why he wouldn't show up for second moto.
Well, usually when something's serious like that and they're calling it a season, it takes a day or two to kind of talk to everyone at Kawasaki.
Sure.
You want to let them all know before they get a memo saying their rider's gone for the rest of the year. Are they bringing in Tickle? And then probably I look for an announcement maybe Tuesday.
Sure. Well, I mean, like you say, is it the end of the season? We won't know. The fact that he didn't show up for the second moto, especially when GL was talking about on the broadcast, he jumped into the pits there to try to get that throttle cable opened up, to get that housing cleaned out. It wasn't like he was, oh, this hurts or that hurts. But for him to not even start the second moto, that's a pretty big red flag for me that there's, like you say, end of season, we'll know in a couple of days here.
Well, I watched on his vlog and it was funny, but it wasn't funny when he's going, oh Lord, please let me have feeling in my right hand today. Like, he's joking, but he's serious. Like, you have to feel your throttle hand. There's nothing else you can do.
No, it's
that's
he may joke about it. But that's AC, right?
Because that's what he does. He's
going to make light of it, which is great. But the idea that it's on the top of your head like that, to even joke about it in a vlog in that environment, tells you that it's pretty much at the forethought of the forethought. So yeah, we'll see what happens. Everybody knows I've got an affinity towards AC. If you ask me tomorrow who's going to win next weekend, I'll say AC, because that's just the way it goes. But no, I do agree with you. There's a big question mark as to why he wouldn't start the second moto. And then again, what a huge momentum shift as you see Tomac seeming to wanting to show up and go racing again. All of us are thankful. All of us love it. There's not a spectator out there, like him or not like him. When he's on, he adds such a dynamic to the mix. But to the point of AC, we'll see what happens by Wednesday.
Yeah, and I'm just hoping. I don't know if they have a specific nerve guy they can go to, but I really, really, really hope he gets it figured out. He's
Yeah.
got the speed, he's got the endurance, he's got everything. He's just
Well, he's got those
his
starts.
hand is failing him. That's it.
Yeah.
That's literally the only thing missing.
Only thing missing, right? In the sport of motocross, only thing missing, the ability to hold onto the bars. Oops. You know, I know you're saying that lightly, but yeah, just it's how sketchy would that be, getting a whole shot or second place and 40 guys behind you wanting to kill you, and then you know, just lose that front end. I just think it's interesting, like if they show that camera angle from behind when he comes into that sweeper right hand, and it didn't look like he did anything wrong. I mean, it, you know, like when we looked at RJ Hampshire a couple of races ago, remember we were talking about that left-hander and he got out on that loose stuff and it just gobbled his front wheel up and just threw him to the ground. It just didn't look like that with AC. You know, that sweeper right-hander. I know it was early in the moto. I know they were just going, you know, hyper fast.
Watch his right hand. And I watched it a couple of times. I'm like, it's the right hand. That's why he hit the ground. And maybe he thought he had a throttle problem because he couldn't feel it.
How scary is that, right?
I mean,
on a factory 450.
Yeah, that's not good. And then the series looks like Dylan is really taking control. And with Roczen going down in that first turn, dude, I thought that might have been the end of Roczen. That was nasty. You don't want to go down at, I don't know, 60 miles an hour in front of 40 riders. Jesus. And then to see Sexton clip him and go flying through the air, and that could have been horrible.
That first turn, that right-hander, I don't know that the TV does justice on how fast they're coming into that corner, because there's not much shutting down. It's very similar to those who've been to Loretta's, that sweeper right-hand turn. There's a little bit of backing down, but not by much. I've ridden that track on a 450, and there's never been a track that scared me as much as Millville. And I can't imagine, like you say, the amount of speed and the velocity to whether the front end knifed or whatever. I don't know. I guess the part that intrigues me is, I mean, what an incredible statement. I mean, doing the reverse of Sexton at WW Ranch, you know, Sexton going 1 DNF, and then, you know, here you got Roczen going DNF 1. I don't know. I'm asking you as a historian, has there been anybody that's DNF'd a first moto and won the second? I can't think of it.
I'd have to go back and look, but yes, like guys like Stewart or somebody who broke a bike. I think Stewart might have even done it at Southwick when he locked up. I can't remember, but it's been, I would have to think
a bike breaking down versus physical. A bike breaking
down. I don't
know
that I've ever seen it physical like that.
I mean, because when he was in the
different.
Well, when he was in the back of that Asterisk Medical, I was like, oh man, because I got goosebumps of the bad kind, because that reminded me when he went off and we're like, oh shoot, there goes one of our contenders. Yes. You know what I mean? It was very, very disheartening to see that. And then as I was texting you and Hopper, I had to go away from my computer for the second motos. I had to watch them late last night. But all I said to Michaela is, I cannot believe we're watching Roczen go off in a mule, because the last time we saw that, it you know, made
San Diego.
Yeah, it was not a good 2 years. But to see him come back and you texted me, hey, he's back on the line. I'm like, say what? Which I was thankful, you know, because again, I'm still one of the biggest fans out there. But yeah, props to him. And then to get the freaking whole shot and then just later. Now, we're not naive. We know Barsha probably didn't push it because he knew the guy got 42nd place in the first moto. You don't have to really push it. You know, you had to win.
Yeah, Barsha pushed it, but he also, that's the maturity you talked about. He still wanted to go 1-1 really
absolutely
bad.
Yeah,
but he realized, okay, I'm going to have to go to a level where there's a really good chance I'm going to crash, or I just lay right here and take the win. He took the win. Smart move. Brilliant. It actually, you know, it keeps Roczen alive. It's still right now, it's still Dylan's series to lose.
Well, you know that, you know, when they came up the top, I think they called it Mount Martin, and then they took that left hander and dropped down. How many times do you see Barsha's front end just kind of drift away both wheels?
Two wheels slide off that thing.
And again, for those that have never ridden Millville, I've never been on a track that has that kind of elevation change. Now, I've not ridden, you know, Hangtown. I've not ridden some of those other ones. All I'm saying is, or Glen Helen, excuse me, you know, I'm just telling you, I cannot imagine coming out of that, losing the front end and just dropping down like that. And he did it. I'm not going to say every lap, but damn, he did it a lot.
This is how steep it is. A couple of years ago, Jeremy Martin crashed on the uphill halfway up, had to cut across the track because it was so steep on a factory 250. He couldn't make it up it. That's how steep and gnarly it is.
And again, I don't know if the listeners realize this or not, but that is not part of the amateur track. If you were to get in your truck and go to Millville this weekend and race a race, it would not include that uphill. And when I say straight. I'm talking damn near straight up. And you could see it like if they messed that right hander as they came up, if they didn't either double or get a good, kind of like scrub it a little bit and get that rear wheel drive. And those are on factory bikes. So and to watch Barsha just kind of come around that left hander and just lose both wheels on the downside, coming back to the conversation of Ferrandis when those two were, and props to Ferrandis. He didn't get the best starts, came through, wrecked a couple times, still came through. That to me is what put him up on another notch, that this is his series, and I don't want to be Captain Obvious. He's going fast. He's getting good, but this weekend he didn't get good starts, came through the field, wrecked, came through the field, wrecked, came through the field. Wow. As GL says in the broadcast, at this point in the halfway, somebody's going to take control and gather that momentum. And when I saw Ferrandis go down twice and still make the podium, that was, to me, the deciding factor of the momentum has changed zip codes, as Lance Armstrong says, and we say it in every show together.
No, you say it in every show.
Yeah.
I don't say it.
But that was it right there, because Ferrandis showed that he's here to stay. He can go down and get back up. We're going to talk about Sexton here in a minute. That's another guy that, heaven forbid, if he doesn't go down in a moto, how the hell are you laying in the first turn in 2 rounds now and race yourself into the top 7, top 5?
Okay, and he wasn't just laying in the first turn. He was like helicoptering up above a bike in the first turn.
I mean, he was collected in the first turn big time.
I'm glad he wasn't hurt, let alone get back and do as well as he did. And he's back. He looks like he's finally finding the form that we knew he could do. And he's just a few pieces away from being a consistent podium or title contender. He's real close though.
He's really close, but definitely Ferrandis has got control of this series.
The thing about Roczen going down in that first turn that was most exciting to me is, I do not want to see him have these nasty crashes. It sucks. But like I said, last week, he goes, "Oh, I can have these and not break myself." Yes, he's sore. Yes, he's hurting. That might mean trouble for these other guys. Like maybe next year, Supercross, outdoors. It means a lot for his career and his longevity. Maybe he's not out after this year, as you kind of had suspected. He's showing a toughness. You don't leave the sport the year that you're doing stuff like that. The year you leave the sport, that's when you hang it up. You just ride off, and he would have called it a day.
Yep.
That kind of effort shows me he likes it, loves it, the passion's there, and he wants to stick around. I hope I'm right on that one. So.
No, he's making me eat crow, and there's not a bigger bowl that I'd rather eat than that one right there. Yes. Absolutely, because I would have never in a million years put a dollar bill down on the potential of him. Like I said to you, I don't even know that he can go the distance. Now he's gone the distance after hitting the ground. It's again, momentum has changed, and I do concur with you. What an incredible confidence builder that's going to be for Roczen. Is he completely out? No. What is he, 36 points down or something? He's not completely out of it. He's not completely in it. All we got to do is see a like a Plessinger, one moto bike, let's go. Something stupid happens like RJ Hampshire. Crazy things can happen, but I'll be more than happy to eat my bowl of crow here in regards to what Roczen has shown us, because again, as a fan, the guy is like poetry in motion. The HRC bike is running extremely, extremely well. It's good to see Sexton and Roczen both up there. I don't care if you like Hondas or you don't like Hondas, but to think about that dry spell that Honda's had from a number 1, and then to bring Roczen in when he got number 1 on RC8 on RC8, and then not be able to bring it back, and then have 2 years of injuries. It's like they keep tasting it, and then it just eludes them, and then it eludes them. Not to be redundant on what you said in the last show, but for him to show that he can get up and resume, that's a huge confidence builder. And again, I don't know that I've ever seen somebody physically go out on an injury in Moto 1 and come back and not just whole shot and stamp the event, the Moto. I was like, damn, that was great.
Yeah, loved like I said, I think I've seen him DNF, but not because of injury or like go off on the cart. That might, that might have to. I'm going to research that one. I'll see if I can find an answer on that one.
That was impressive, nonetheless. Shit.
And then how about Webb and Sexton touching wheels? Okay, I kind of have an issue with this one. My issue is I've seen guys do this, and if you're going to hit the face of a jump the same time as a guy, you either scrub like sequential, like the same direction. It's just, I don't know if it was just racing or what, but that could have been so much worse.
Well, obviously, Michaela and I watched the races together. The first thing that came to mind was when Cooper and Martin came together, and we know the outcome of that. The fact that that jump, and like you said, we're not going to sit here and accuse anybody of anything, but just as spectators, stop and think about this. That jump, every lap before that, they were trying to scrub as low as they could. Is it coincidental they both scrubbed towards each other instead of going the other way? Again, we could go back and look at the film and look at the angle maybe, but isn't it interesting that one scrubbed the one way and one scrubbed the other way? And it's kind of like, I'm going to show, kind of the Barsha style, the whip, give you the number one, or Cooper Webb looking back, giving the bang, bang, or whatever it may be. You could have had the two come together, bounce off, and it could have had carnage on both sides of the track. We'll get into the 250s and what that carnage looked like. But yeah, Cooper got the raw end of the stick. I honestly thought he was going to pull it off. I don't know if it's because he hit that soft stuff and the whip just got exacerbated, once it came back around. To see him get lapped afterwards, that's really not legit. You know what I mean? To see him down there in 32nd or whatever, just the fact that guy got up again after landing flat on his back in Supercross, that was my first thought, because that guy ran over and, Coop just kind of sat there, and that was exactly what happened in Supercross. I was like, please just get up. Even if you have to DNF, I understand why. He just got freaking yard darted. But for him to stay on the track, again, props to Coop. Thank you for staying out there. I can't imagine what kind of pain he was in. But how did the bike not get mangled? That was what I went back and watched. Man.
Well, and it was weird the way it high-sided, the bike high-sided in the soft stuff, threw him over, and then luckily he hit the grass.
Yes.
Although I will say it still hurts. I don't know.
Absolutely.
I've high-sided my 450. Nothing as bad as that. And just the whip, before you even hit the ground, it hurts because you just get tossed off the bike. And I mean, your shoulders, everything hurts. And then you hit the ground going that fast. At least he didn't just come to a complete stop and it scrubbed it off. And that's probably his only saving grace there.
So what do we call that? The Webapult on top of the Chatapult that goes back to Millville?
I don't know. Scrubbapult.
But yeah, like you said, that could have been a lot worse. I'm glad that, I haven't seen anything that says Coop's banged up too bad. Certainly Sexton got the better half of that because it just seemed to bounce off of it, allowed him to get the bike straight, and he was gone. But I'm glad to see Webb stay on the track, because that says, well, we Coop's just a freaking pit bull of a fighter. Hopefully he's not banged up, and we'll see him again this weekend at 100%. We know we'll see him. I just hope at 100%.
Well, and to quote Marshall Welton's his Instagram, sometimes you're the hammer, sometimes you're the nail. He was definitely the nail on that one.
Yeah. Well, and I think that was both of them saying, screw you. And boom, they came together. Like I said, Coop kind of doing that because, he's good at that scrub. He can keep that thing pretty low, and Sexton was doing a good job as well.
Yeah. And I look at it and I go, okay, well, what if how do you know what direction the other guy's going to scrub? You don't. It's more of, if you're side by side, maybe just lighten up on the scrub, but then they're going so fast. It's one of those things where I was thinking about how to avoid it. What do you do? I don't know that you can do anything. It's just really dangerous, and that's part of it.
Well, if you take that inside, the momentum's going to make the bike go this way. If you're on the outside and you hit it to make the momentum just, if you follow the inertia up the face of the jump. But like I say, that's some pretty close. And not to sound like an idiot here, what if neither one of them scrubbed? They freaking would have flat landed and maybe blown out both of their rims, right?
Or if one decides not to scrub, he's got to check up so much it's not even close.
Yeah.
And they go, well, why didn't you scrub that? Like I said, yeah, I don't know what you do about that one. It's just, I would hope the guys, I don't know. I don't know. One of those things. I hope it doesn't happen again. I'm sure it probably will, but it is what it is. And then Tomac doing Tomac, man. I don't know. I still feel, I stand by what I said at the beginning of the series. He's going to go when he feels like it. He's riding much better. We hear he's got his parts back. No, I'm just kidding.
Thanks, Johnny Hopper.
Yes, Johnny Hopper.
Got the inside scoop that they're back underneath the umbrella. Yes. Oh, the reason why they got him, by the way, is because AC's out. So they brought the parts back. So there you go. Johnny Hopper's conspiracy theory is true.
We won't know for a couple years and what really happened. Somebody's going to go out and go, well, yeah, there was this one little part. They don't like they took his parts away, but we did have an ignition that we gave AC that we didn't give him. You never know, but
you never.
And that's why Johnny's argument was very, very legit. like I said, I still don't agree with him. I don't think that they are doing anything. I just don't think they're putting in the extra effort, because they're like, well, this guy's gone. Why are we going to go to Colorado and spend an extra test day with this guy to make him comfortable? He's out. So we'll see him on race day. And that's my opinion. And I feel like his effort on race day is the same as that. It's, I'll go when I can go. And when I can't, I'm just going to settle.
Yeah. How do you say anything other than that when you look at, let's go back 4 rounds ago, the guys that were around him? I mean, come on. I mean, there's no reason for him to be sitting back there. It's not like he's on a privateer bike. It's not, he's like on a semi-factory bike. I just think, like you said, headspace wise, he's just, yeah, I'll just race today. But these last couple of rounds, we've seen that pit bull come back, and we all love it. Again, it's just poetry in motion. I know I say that. We get to Jeremy Martin, I'm going to say poetry in motion across that start finish line. It was amazing to watch. And I don't know when you want to get into it, but one of the things
we're going right into 250s now.
Yeah. Whenever I'm teaching a workshop in a camp, I'm surprised how many people, I'm not going to say pre-jump everything, but Millville, you saw it a lot. They wouldn't wait till they got off the face of the jump. You'd see them leaving almost halfway up the face of the jump. Ironically, even saw it in the 250 when they were jumping that Lucas Oil, that little jump, you know what I mean? And you saw it in the 250 class. Goes back again to Tomac. Tomac's done it now in the last couple of rounds. He's got a unique line. Kind of reminds me of James Stewart at Daytona when he was seat bouncing up and over that wall and kind of catching everybody off guard. But, you know, Tomac was doing it almost every single lap in places people wouldn't do it, making passes, as the old saying goes, where you're not supposed to be able to pass, which I love. But no, Tomac, love to see it. The one thing that I will give Tomac credit for is he didn't come up with excuses on the podium. He just flat out said, those guys are hauling the mail. I was fast as I could go today. They were just faster. And I really appreciated that comment. It wasn't like he was tapped. He didn't have that. Remember when he got into it with Barsha and he was kind of doing that fake laugh thing?
Oh, yeah. When they were yelling at each other.
Yeah. And Tomac was doing that fake laugh. Like,
yeah. Ha, ha, ha.
Yeah. But that's what Tomac's looked like when he's been on the podium. This weekend, he seemed back to authentic Tomac. Like, dude, props to those guys. They were just going faster. I gave it my best. It wasn't like it was one of those first races in a while. I didn't feel like if he didn't win, we all would say he was just kind of out there. He was racing hard. He just simply got beat. And you got to give him credit. He called a spade a spade. He gave those guys credit. And it does go back to what we spoke about last week. I think it will change the dynamics of next year, because if you went back 2 years ago, let's face it, 9 out of 9 guys would say they're pretty much racing for second place. This will be the summer that people realize Tomac is beatable. That's what I said to you last week about I would pull Jeremy Martin out only because I don't want people to get confident thinking that they can hang with me. At 100%, nobody could hang with me. You know what I mean? Like we were talking about, if you're playing the politics of game selection.
Well, last week you and I had the same discussion where I said I think I would sit down AC, but I don't have a problem keeping Jeremy out there. I hate to say it, Coach, but check those results right there. That looks pretty good. 1-1.
They look beautiful.
If a guy can go 1-1, he needs to be out there.
And not just 1-1, but to run down J Coop, go around him. And again, I know it's his home track. He knows every literal square inch of that track, but to catch and run down J Coop. And what was it, 5-second lead? And I know J Coop had one bad lap. I think he was like 3 seconds slower. But I say this in my workshops all the time. That's why you've got to practice consistency, because you never know what the dude out front could have. A bad corner. He could come up short on a jump. He could miss a gear. 2 seconds are gone just like that. You've got to stay consistent. Yeah. And there, you know. Well,
and with Jeremy Martin, it's the exact opposite of, you get a guy who's got momentum, right? And you don't want to put him out there and lose. Everyone makes him beatable. But then you also get a guy who is so believable in his own talent that he knows, I'm racing myself into shape. I'm fighting myself into a place where I can dominate these guys. And he knows it. And that's what he's doing. He's literally racing himself into shape, and it takes a extremely mentally strong person to be able to do that, like you said, because most people can't handle it, and they fall into a groove and feel like they belong somewhere they don't. That just goes to show how strong Jeremy Martin is mentally. That's badass. I mean, that just stamped it.
No, well, we know the Martin brothers are total badasses. I mean, they're literally 2 pit bulls in a fight. I'll disagree with you politely. I don't think Jeremy's racing himself into shape. I think he's just racing through injuries.
Well, yeah, that's what I mean. He's racing himself. He's racing himself healthy.
Yeah.
Yes, he's in shape, but he's the fingers are getting better each week, and he knows as the fingers get better, the speed will come up, and he's riding within himself to get there, and he's mature enough to do that, in my opinion.
Oh, he's definitely mature enough to do it, but he's also a grown man in a young man's class. So all it takes is somebody, kind of go to like the situation that Jalik and Jet had, go back to, Sexton and Cooper. If you had something like that and Jeremy hits the ground again and he's not 100%, as you and I say on the show all the time, that second injury is usually worse than the first because you didn't heal from the first. Now he's making me look like a jackass because he went out and went 1-1. But, if you really step back and look at any other sport, how many of them are going to go out and play at 40 or 50%? In a sport like ours that just require, it's not like we're talking he's got a bum elbow, right? We're talking the thing that holds onto the bars, fingers, scaphoid, shoulders, and again, we know it's contract year. We know it's an out of sight, out of mind. We know that you're only as good as your last race. He certainly made a great statement for that this weekend, right? Going 1-1. Here's what breaks my heart. He won't even get as much credit as he deserves because it was his home track. He's got to go do that in the next couple rounds, run Jay Coop down and do that. Because unfortunately, this industry will say, oh, it's his home track. He should have been able to do that. I'm like, did you see? Like, I want to talk about that for a second. When they came across the start line and there was that roller?
Yeah.
Did you see him? And I know this is such an overused word. Did you see him send it into that? He has the bike at a 45-degree angle. I said to Mika, like, watch how far he jumps into that G out, because I think it was when he had just gotten past Coop. Don't hold me to it. He freaking just sent it over that roller. And again, people that have never,
you're talking about after the sand rollers, you hung the left.
Nope. Come out of the start, and you know how that right hand turn on the start.
Yeah.
He just freaking sent it like Ferrandis in the 450. Even Tomac, he was sending it like he was on a 450. Bike's leaned over, just beautifully sends it. And he makes it look easy. If you screw that up, it's absolute carnage. Again, the television doesn't do coverage or justice to the side. I'm not saying that, it's not peaky.
Well, and then even that one after the rollers where everybody was hopping it, he realized you couldn't hop it. So he hit it and jumped all the way out to a new one. He created his own line that nobody else had. That second moto, I was like, ooh, that's clever.
Absolutely. And when we get deeper into the 250s, we'll talk about that right-hander before the catapult. It was supposedly not a good line, and those guys made it work. Jet made it work. Hunter made it work. I liked seeing how the track changed, and, the guys did a great job of changing on the fly, using a lap and going, oh, shoot, that wasn't the fastest line. And, again, I'm going to go back to the Hunter and the Jet side of things here in a minute when we get to them, but you could see the European side once again coming out. They were doing things that nobody else was doing, even if it was just little bunny hop and missing little clips to get over the top of the jump into those little tight left-handers. They did it every lap.
Well, we'll go right into the Hunter brothers, as some people call them.
Yep.
The Lawrence brothers. But what they were doing, they would go on a line, like you said, that inside before the catapult. I saw one of them hit it and they went slow, but they looked at it, felt it, and realized what they needed to do to make that correction. And it just came to them as the outside got chopped up. It came to them as the race went along. They're the only guys out there searching. A lot of these other guys, and I'm sorry, RJ Hampshire, just whatever he finds his fast line, I don't think he detours off it too much. Like he's just on it. He could get savage, bumpy, and he doesn't seem to move. Where these guys constantly, lap to lap, they're searching for the best line out there.
Well, and take your point just a little bit further. If you watch Jet sit behind his brother and sit behind Mosabin, and then Jet's like, all right, he's going to go here. He's going here. 2 laps later, he knew where he's going to go. Just that slight little pause, and Jet pounced. And it was just interesting to watch, the way that materialized. But yeah, I love, and again, I teach this in my workshops all the time, is don't just be along for the ride. You know what I mean? You hit the jump and you see guys just go. Those guys were like preloading halfway up the face of the jump. They're literally bunny hopping over the lip of that jump, flat landing and dropping into that inside just super, super fast. And again, I love it when, not GL in particular, but I love it when someone goes, you can't pass there, kind of like what they would say with Supercross. And then Tomac would find a way to pass. And I love that about the Lawrence brothers. They're, again, whether you want to contribute it to GPs, you have to give Ferrandis the same credit passing. Look at Roxon on that opening lap when he went around that outside.
Yes.
Nobody would have said that could have been done. And he's like, really? Watch this. That line just gave me goosebumps.
My beer. Here we go.
Yeah. Watch this, because here it goes. And a lot of people don't realize he probably hit that out. He being Roxon hit that outside lane one gear taller. So he was able to make up that distance with gear inches. But again, it's amazing me how many people will watch it and go out and still never change the way they ride. It's like, guys, you're getting a school right there. You're getting schooled literally. Don't just, like when they were saying, and I don't hold me to it because I don't remember right off the top of my head, but was it Tomac jumped to that inside, the same corner we're talking about right now, and then Ferrandis or whoever it was he was chasing got a big gap on him, and he goes, oh, well, that didn't work. But it goes, like you said, you got to try, because if you go back to the 250 class, it doesn't work in scenario A, but it did work in scenario B when they were tight.
Let me tell you what the difference was. The difference was the track was more worked in. When you have a jump on the inside, guys are hitting their brakes, right? So there's a braking bump that the Lawrence brothers spotted and were jumping it.
Yep,
to
exactly.
pre-jump over so they could carry more speed than Tomac could, because it worked itself in. And
all
those
right,
are the little
just
things.
Brought up something. Let me ask you a question. Why did the 450s go before 250s this week?
TV.
Okay.
Because they wanted to keep them on the big network, and then the 250s had to go later on the small network.
The only reason why it intrigues me is because of what you just said.
I like it.
Well, the 450s go and the track is completely different when the 250s come out for that second moto. And we're talking about stuff that wouldn't have been there in the typical, you know what I mean?
Yeah, so absolutely.
That's very cool. I didn't think about the TV side of it, to be honest with you. I just thought maybe they were changing it up.
Oh, your Wi-Fi crapped out on you, Rob.
Is that back?
Oh, well, your face is frozen, but I can hear you at least. Yeah, I wish they would change it all the time. I love just mixing it up. It's something different. It gives the guys a new challenge, and it gives guys, like, I think it almost takes away a little bit from Tomac when you do that, because he does better with those bumpier tracks, and he finds those lines that we were just talking about where it builds up off of a braking bump where you can double in. But yeah, it's just, I like it. The more things you can throw at these guys, they're the best in the world. Let's do it.
I thought it was great. I'm still going to go back to that Lucas Oil where they, again, reminds me of that Daytona wall where they just kind of popped up and over that, leaving a little bit early. That was, I love watching that kind of stuff. So creative. And was it just me? They didn't have a radar gun in the rollers this year, did they?
If they did, I don't remember seeing it. I'm sure somebody did.
Yeah,
I know the Whoop Monster was down there with the bell. That was cool.
Yeah, got the bell going there. I'm just always curious because it seemed like, and again, I could go back and look at last year. It seemed like there was a lot more manualing through those than there was, you know what I mean? It just seemed like that straightaway was just a little bit different this year in regards to how they were handling it. I don't know why.
Well, and to me, it seemed like a lot of the guys that have been there years in past started doubling it, and they're like, wait a second, these guys who are manually it are smoking me. I better start, so they went back to manualing it.
Well, that rear wheel just driving. Yeah, just that rear wheel driving. And we'll get into Volan here in just a little bit, but the idea of those daddy long legs, just keeping that rear wheel driving all the way through. And I've said it on previous shows. I said it in our pre-show, his ability to manual it like Connor Fields on a BMX bike mixed with Jeremy McGrath, mixed with, his dad and his uncle, just never let that rear wheel leave through those rollers. And then even in other parts of the track, scrubbing and getting the rear wheel down, especially up Mount Martin and stuff like that. But don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but that was really cool to watch.
Well, and Jet is the best at that. I mean, he does it to a level where you're like, how did you get the wheel to stay on the ground going that fast? It's crazy.
Yeah, it is. Oh. It's fun to watch. That's for sure. And I want the listeners to think about this. Next time you watch it and they show the camera going by them from the side, watch their head. Notice that their head very rarely is up and down. The bike's moving like crazy, but watch their head. It's just barely moving from the beginning to the end. That's freaking so hard.
And you can almost always pause it, take a line, draw it from their head to their handlebars. It stays in a line almost. I mean, they'll go about 6 inches forward and backward, but that's about it. You're never going to get
change much.
That head never moves back. And that's what, like when we were doing the school, that's why I was always preaching people. Your head's on a line right here. If your head's ever back, you're in trouble. That means you're about to take a ride and you don't want that ride. Yeah. Or get swapping. It's just it's a bad spot. So
absolutely.
And speaking of bad spots, Mosman, he reminds me a lot of RJ, the way he just sends it, man. He's fun to watch. I'll give him that. I was glad to see him get up there and get past Coop and get that. He got 3-2 moto finishes. What's different with him besides Will?
I just think it's time on the seat. It's time in a factory rig. It's I have to give him credit. Look at that coming down that, Mount Martin. Yeah, you hug that inside line. He kind of hit that little kicker and still landed it in the inside rut. And then, he rode over that inside line a little bit, but he was committed. And I think that's the word for Mosiman this year is commitment. He's not playing any games. I think he's done being Mr. Nice Guy. What I was excited to see, and it never materialized, was to see Jet get up to Mosiman and shake it up. If you take back the Supercross drama, because that's going to be Mosiman's biggest litmus test is if he can handle Jet. Because right now he's, the guys he's battling with, and again, I give him full props to be sitting there in third place, going 2-3, 3-2. How awesome is that? And not just doing it against, no disrespect to anybody that's 5th or 6th, but to do it with Coop, jeez, that was a statement. It's not like, let's go back to that carnage.
It's a championship leader that he passed. That wasn't like anyone.
And it's not like where the carnage where everybody kind of got yard darted running into, he flat out got past with the points leader, a Supercross #1 plate holder, the guy that got the whole shot. And this is the thing that I always love to watch in a race. This goes back to, like we said with Sexton. You're sitting on the ground in the first turn in a 450 class, and you race yourself up to 5th, 6th, whatever he got to. And here's J. Coop that freaking got the whole shot with Martin and was gone. I'm not saying gone like 30 seconds, but they're out there, and you incrementally run them down and then pass them. Now, again, we have some listeners that are smart. They know J. Coop is like, hey, look, I got to win the battle, I got to win the war, not the battle. We get that. But I'm not going to say he laid down for him either.
No, he fought him pretty hard. He really wanted those points.
He wants those points, but Mosiman, and again, as we continue to look at momentum and confidence, that could be a big momentum shifter for Mosiman, because it's not like he's got this is a bunch of double negatives. Mosiman's a good starter. We haven't seen a lot of it in outdoors so far this year, but we did see it in Supercross. Then you add a little bit of confidence, add a little bit of momentum, add a good starter. We didn't see the starts out of Jalik Swall that we saw the last couple of weeks, which just goes to show, I know the word was way overused this past week on the broadcast, the parity in the class. But the idea is it just goes to show you, the difference between a 1st and a 13th place start is the difference between top 3 and inside the top 20. I mean, and we know Jalik is a kick-ass starter, but Mosiman was on point with those starts. What about Coop? I mean, 2 whole shots against Jeremy at his home track. I mean, that was just stellar.
Didn't Jeremy get one of them? I thought
Jeremy got the second one, but I mean, Coop was like right there with them. Yeah. You know how it is when you go to somebody that races their local track, you're like, you're essentially racing for second. The guy just knows the dirt. He knows when to grab the second shift. He knows that first-hand corner, just everything. Coop is on it. You know what I mean?
Historically, though, this track hasn't been that good for Jeremy Martin. I mean, Cooper Webb beat him. Like, he hasn't been, it's not like he's always been dominant in this home track thing. So
no, he hasn't, but who's he gotten beaten by?
Well,
some
Alex.
Some of the most dominant riders.
That's true. That's true.
But getting beat by Ferrandis, getting beat by Webb, that there's nothing to shake a stick at with that,
Alex Martin.
Has he ever been beat by Alex there?
Yeah. Alex beat him there a couple of years ago.
What team was Jeremy on?
I think it was when they were both on Stars when Alex beat him there.
Really?
I'll have to go back and look, but I'm pretty sure.
I honestly don't remember that.
I'm pretty sure.
I know that's always been kind of a joke. Because like when I was working with the Martin brothers, we called him Germ. Jeremy was on an 85 and Alex was on the 250. And then myself, Spencer Dolly, Germ and Alex, we'd go for a bike ride, and Alex was like, we're going to drop him. We're going to drop him. We're going to drop him. You know, and Jeremy would come back to the house and he's literally in tears because he got dropped. And so there was kind of that little bit of a joke. It was interesting that Jeremy was the first one to get a #1 plate and Alex still doesn't have one. It was kind of like bittersweet, you know, brother rivalry kind of a thing. So that's why I honestly don't remember Alex ever beating Jeremy at Millville, but I could be staying corrected here by all means, but I just think it's cool.
Yeah.
Those two guys are awesome. I love them both. They're great guys.
Yeah. And then, you know, Cooper's doing exactly what he needs to. I was so happy to see Austin Faulkner. I know it's only 4th place, but to see him actually fight and stay up there. Well, when a guy like Faulkner, when he wins races and he's a prodigy, you expect him to be in the championship battle. You expect him to be top 3 every week. When he does only 4th place in one moto, but it was like a 17-4. But listen, right now we'll take whatever we can get. You need to build off of something, and I do believe he is racing himself into shape. And you know, in the first motos with that kind of parity, if you're pacing yourself, you're going to wind up 17th.
Well, we know that our buddy Toolman Dan is extremely excited about that 4th place finish. But in all seriousness, though, what I find interesting is that
we're losing your
start. He being forked up there.
Yeah. There you go.
Know, as soon as he got there, I was like, okay, cool. He got the start he needed. He desperately needed that. And then he didn't succumb to anybody that was around him and just had a solid moto from the first lap to the last lap. 4th place, that to me is as good as a win. And you know, Faulkner had to chalk that up as a win. It goes back to, like you said earlier, this, like you were talking about Roxon's confidence, because he did get back up. I know it's only one moto out of what do we had so far? 8 so far, 10 or whatever we're at.
But you can build off of this.
Well, especially Faulkner, you know, he can build off of this.
And you can see his body language. I watched his body language when he crossed the finish line.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, cool. He's feeling it. He gets it. He remembers what it's like to be up front. And it's funny, you do forget what it's like. And also you go, okay, I am one of these guys. I should be up here every week. And maybe that will change things, I hope.
Well, and you know, I don't mean to jump around a little bit, but you look at somebody like a Marchbank, or excuse me. Yeah. You look at like a Garrett, right? He's up there with the guys, gets caught in the carnage and is able to kind of claw himself back up there. You do that enough weekends in a row, you do believe that you've got the bike, you've got the fitness, you know, you got all these guys are badasses. The guy in 42nd place is a badass dude. I mean, I don't think there's a listener that hasn't seen somebody. We obviously had Jake Penhankos on last week, right? Yes. I mean, if you've ever ridden with the dude, it's like, can anybody be faster than him? If you're from that Massachusetts area and you've ever seen him at Winchester or someplace else, you're like, there's no way somebody could be faster than him. And then he qualifies 32nd place. And you're like, shit, there's some bad dudes out there. My point is this. It's not like Faulkner is, you know, lacking talent. It's not like Marchbanks isn't lacking talent. It's that idea that you start seeing yourself going, hey, I've been here enough. I start to believe I'm there. And absolutely. Yes, there's going to be carnage. And like this in the 250 class, when that one accident kind of collected 7 or 8 guys and it kind of changed the top 20. But hey, those are the type of races. Faulkner was not even involved in that. It's legitimate
froze again here, Rob.
And if he all of a sudden goes, I use this in our show quite often. Say it again.
Oh, you froze. There we go. Unfrozen. So,
well, you think about like what Jeff Emick says, you know, you'd much rather have momentum than a points lead. And that right there could be the momentum that could be frustrating for the other guys. Because, and I do want to throw this comment out. Go back to the 450 class. We don't have Anderson. We don't have Osborne. What the heck would it be looking like with those two guys healthy? You look over here in the 250 class. It's amazing. When you look at that depth of talent, now you got Faulkner that gets a little bit of confidence back. Now, all of a sudden, he's top dog back on Cowie and not Shimoda. And all of a sudden now he gets his starts that we know are consistent. Would either you or I be surprised if the next 5 races you see Faulkner get on the podium? No,
not at all.
Not at all.
I almost expect it.
Well, we do, but then where do you throw in Mosiman? Where do you throw in Jay Coop? Where do you throw in Martin? Now you start looking at those top 10 guys that we knew were going to be there. And Faulkner just has not gotten good starts or not in good shape or whatever.
There's about 15 guys that I wouldn't be surprised if they got a podium.
Exactly.
Which is crazy.
All because now look at Jalik. Jalik got 2 good starts, got his first overall. gets a 7th to 10th place start, finishes 10th, 11th place. Just show, and again, I know that broadcast has overused it, but the parity, it just goes to show you how on point you've got to be. And again, I know it's difficult because your gate selection obviously is based on qualifying. And you know, like Jalik said in our show together, you know, he just doesn't consider himself a one-lap heater guy.
Yeah.
You know?
So I want to go back to the big pileup. And I have a lot of blame on that one. I love RJ Hampshire. I've even asked for the RJ Hampshire cam. Dude, you got to know when to check up. That was his fault. That's the same thing he did to Max Voland at Paula. At some point, just don't put yourself on the outside right there. The ruts are coming together. You got to check up. And look what it caused. It caused carnage. How many different dudes? And I don't know if Pierce is hurt or not. It didn't look good when he got hit. Jet also. And Jet, that was a 17-year-old kid being a 17-year-old kid, not checking up and trying to dive behind there like he did. That was pretty stupid. And he flat creamed poor Pierce. And then, you know, Styles landed on him. Wow. But it all started just because RJ just didn't think on the outside. Like sometimes you just have to check up and you got to know the lines are coming together. You gauge it. You look, you got Pierce right there. Okay, let's stop. What did you see? Did you see did you see it like that or no? Am I off?
No, I don't think that you're off very much. I understand that RJ is, and I haven't spoken to RJ. I've said this on the show before. I don't have him on my cell phone. I've never met him in person. I think he's riding so frustrated right now that he wants to knock any wall down that gets in front of him. And I have the utmost respect for that because, yeah, it's a real estate game, right? You're on that outside lane. Unfortunately, we all know in racing, the guy who has the inside pretty much owns you when the lines come together. Because if you just look at the way momentum works, right? No matter how fast RJ is going, anybody on the inside that hits you, you're always going to be on the outside. You're not, no pun intended. You're going to be on the outside
not
looking
necessarily. It's whoever gets that handlebar in front. Even if you're on the outside,
Good
you
point.
get a handlebar on somebody and they hit you mid to back, you're going down. But
that's a good point.
He's just assuming they're going to let off or he's going to beat them. But I mean, you have to have a better judge of where it's going to meet up at.
That's fair enough.
It's in your head and you look and you just have to know he's got so much confidence in his corner speed. He's just thinking he's going to beat these guys, but he's way off.
Yeah, and that's a great point. No, that's a good point. He definitely has his confidence in his corner speed. Like you said, maybe in RJ, if we had him on the show, he would say, look, I just really honestly thought I could out drag race him around the outside. But to your point earlier, how many more, what is that, 3 times now in 4 rounds, that outside line coming to somebody else's line. And like you say, you got to say to yourself, look, yes, it sucks that the banners got caught up in the wheel. That was weird. That was just one of those weird things that happens. But hey, you get caught up, you get bounced off the track, stupid shit like that happens. And then, like you say, whether it was Pierce Brown getting center punched by Jet or Styles Robertson having no place to go, and Thrasher, no, not Thrasher. Oh, by the way, let's throw a word out to Thrasher. I heard he's got a broken jaw and a torn up shoulder from that with Voland, so he's pretty jacked up. And it's not Voland's fault. I mean, that was just Daddy Longlegs going through the rollers. They're, opening lap. But I do want to give a shout out to Thrasher. Our buddy, Nick Laurie is very tight with him. And I always like to make sure, because Thrasher's a cool dude and Nick lives with him and stuff. Nick's on our Moto E team. That'll be at Loretta's together. But
broken jaw, that one's rough, man.
Yeah, broken jaw is rough because you know how much weight you're going to lose while your jaw is wired together. So do want to give a shout out and a fist punch to Thrash. But yeah, it's when you look at that and you say to yourself, well, how many races have you now because of, like you say, not checking up? And this is where, if we go back to the Lawrence brothers, I've never seen any, well, I guess I can't say that. I'm going to have to give the MXGP guys, you know what I'm talking about, when those guys come into the corner and most people think you have to exit out this sweeping end of the corner. And those guys literally bounce off the apex and go across the ruts. They literally square it off in a corner that can't be squared off. That's what, if you had seen Jet do that, in my opinion, right as they got to that exit where the lines would have come together, you would have seen Jet off the gas just slightly and go to the inside, hoping that outside line would hit some loose stuff and slow them down, and the Lawrence brothers would take off. We've seen them do it. This isn't a theoretical illustration. We've seen them both do it, where they go right across the big ruts. We saw it early in the outdoor series. We saw it a lot in Supercross.
Yeah, well, I love that technique too. It's where you're finding an acceleration bump in the rut to pop you out. You're waiting for wherever you get that roller inside there, and you just catch that, and that's what changes the momentum. Where other dudes just stay in it.
Wasn't it High Point that had that wall berm that had the white fence? Remember when Coop was coming in, he looks over to his right and he sees Jet, and then he thinks he's going to kind of like brake check him, and Jet just shut it down early, squared it off early, and was gone.
We caught the braking roller, and they're looking at things. They're looking at the track different than other people.
And I think that goes back to what you're saying there. You know, certainly Hampshire's corner speed is great. And again, we're not naive. That corner may not have been as conducive as the illustration we're doing with Jet, where he could square it off. I understand that. We ride, we race, we get, not every corner is exactly the same, but it would certainly, RJ would be much higher in the points right now with just a minor adjustment to your illustration.
That's my thing. And if it happens one time, it's racing. But if you're the multiple times, the exact same situation, and you're the guy on the outside both times or three times or however many times it's been, at some point you got to look in the mirror and say, okay, well, what am I doing to put myself in this position? So,
well, this is where I liked what GL said when he said, and I don't want to put words in GL's mouth, but I think he was paraphrasing, like, you know what RJ's mechanic needs to say to him is, let's just finish a race without wrecking. Let's just start there. No disrespect, but because if you look at 7-8 races in a row when you're on the ground, that starts to jeopardize your confidence. We talked about this with AC a couple shows ago. When 7 out of 7 races, you're picking yourself off the ground. You start to, all right, do I need to tune this down a little bit or whatever? What RJ needs is 1 or 2 motos where he stays up, is as competitive as we know he is. Yeah, that might mean a third, that might mean a second, that might mean a fourth, but look at him now. What did he get? 38th place? Just because Caleb Russell didn't start the race? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, and I would never, ever tell a guy, don't crash. The law of attraction, you never, ever would say that. You have to figure out a unique way of telling him, let's be smoother. Let's go 90%. Change the verbiage. So, because you could tell a guy, don't crash. What's the first thing he's going to do? He's going to crash.
No, I'm just thinking to your illustration, though, it's like we need to be talking about how have all these run-ins come together. They're pretty synonymous across the board. Not every one, but I'd say 8 out of 10 are pretty synonymous to your point. Like, hey, it's okay. We know you're faster than that guy, but when you pick yourself up off the ground and he's going 60 miles an hour, we're now 17 seconds behind him when you get up. It's not a speed issue. It's not a bike setup. It's not a bike horsepower. It's nothing more than just, like you said, be a little bit more calculated, but that's not RJ's MO. You know, and again, as I always tease Michaela,
it's weird. You don't want to take away what a guy does really good, and he's so good at just pinning it, but you also want him on his 2 wheels. So
absolutely,
I'm sorry, I cut you off there. What we're saying?
No. Just I always joke that I'm the king of hypocrites. You know, because I have always said when people ask me, well, if you're still working with AC, what would you tell them? Back it down? Hell no. You don't tell somebody to back it down like that, because that's when you have the white lap dreaded, you check up a little bit, you come up short and you wad yourself up. I just think, you know, it's part of the learning curve. It's just part of, you know, they're not doing, because here's you and I mean, you've raced pro before. I've never raced pro. I've never been at that elite level on a motorcycle, but let's face it. I mean, these guys know what to do. We're not trying to be an armchair quarterback. It's just, how many times do you make the same mistake and go, man, if I had finished that moto in 7th, 6 races in a row, where would I be in points instead of sitting down there completely out of bonus money, completely out of a title, you know? And again, it's easy to be an armchair quarterback on a Sunday night.
But and go back to your guy, Will Hahn. Those are things that he's really, really good at, telling these riders how to go slower, but not saying, hey, don't crash. Like, you know, your mom tells you, don't crash, you crash.
Yeah.
Will Hahn has a very good eye for spotting what these guys can do. He'll say, hey, you know, carry a little speed here, check up just 2 feet earlier here. And that changes the whole course of the moto. And they do go smoother, and they didn't really change anything. So.
Well, and that's what goes back to what we're saying. If you're going to run the 250s after the 450s, getting that feedback from, you know, Ferrandis, getting that over, or excuse me, I guess there's no 450 Husqvarna guys out there, but, you know, the illustration point being the same. Hey, Moto 1, that did work. In Moto 2, it's not working. While those guys are sitting in the paddock waiting to get on the gate, they can't see every square inch of that track. And I think a lot of listeners need to be aware of that, when you see those 450, 250 guys talking after moto, they're not asking what they're doing for dinner. They're like, hey, this has changed. Be careful of this, that. I mean, look at that one section where I think it was going up Mount Martin and that corner, and they would hit it so hard that Jeremy almost like lost the bike. That wasn't like that probably earlier in the day, but that developed after that first 450 moto. Boom, you hit that wall and all of a sudden just sucks you up and then kicks you out. I mean, and that's Jeremy's track. I'm sure he's seen it develop. Well, I'm going to contradict myself because the track was a little bit different this year. I know they've had that uphill, but I don't know that Catapult section was a little bit different, if I'm not mistaken.
It looked different. If I remember, they did something different. I don't know.
Because they had that left-hander and that, yeah. So one of our listeners will correct me, I'm sure. In a positive way. In a positive way. No, in a positive way.
Hey, if we're wrong, yeah, go for it.
Please,
correct us.
Yeah, help
Please
us out.
do. That's how we learn.
That's right.
Anything else on the 250s before we move into some other stuff here, Coach?
Well, just like I mentioned earlier, Max Vohland, that first moto, I know I was texting you a little bit. I was just blown away. His disposition on the bike is so comfortable. I think he surprised himself. 4th place start. He's up there banging bars with some title contenders. Like I said, I by no means feel like he took Thrasher out. I just think the way that they were hauling ass on that opening, going through there. It's, if you know Vohland, you know him and his parents better than I do. I've never met him personally. He just doesn't come across as a vindictive person. You know what I mean?
No, I don't think that was on purpose.
No, it was opening lap.
Racing, man. It happens. Yeah. If you look back, I mean, Thrasher kind of was going for the inside. He had speed. It just happens. It's
opening lap.
It's awful. It's awful, and it sucks for Thrasher.
But I was very impressed with Vohland.
I'm sure Vohland felt bad.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm sure that Vohland probably went over and said so to him if he could. But what I loved about Vohland is that track really lended itself to those with daddy long legs, because it goes back to what we said earlier about being able to keep that bike down, driving. If you couldn't clear that uphill triple up Mount Martin, you could double and you get that drive up again, and then not jump, but kind of pre-jump it and kind of bunny hop on top into that left-hander and then get on the gas and free fall down. Just props to Vohland in that MXGP. I really liked his disposition. The thing that I said to Michaela when we were watching is, I cannot wait to see him next year. Because, he's going to all these venues for the first time. He has no idea on the dirt. He has no idea on the elevation. I mean, even if you've raced there as an amateur, as we said earlier, it's not the same track.
Not even close.
Give that guy 1 year of just kind of learning the ropes, because his disposition, he doesn't crash. I mean, he got passed not because he just didn't ride well. He just got outcrafted. That's all there is to it. The guys that got around him, whether it was squaring off and going underneath him or just railing and outside, that's just going to come with maturity.
Well, and I get the feeling Max thinks he should already be up there.
I agree, but he also realizes how many gate drops does Coop have? If you were to get a numbers game out, how many gate drops does Coop have? Jeremy Martin, Colt Nichols, those guys that he was up there banging bars with, and go, hey, you know what? I know I've got the speed, but these dudes as stealing.
But he doesn't. But when he gets up there, he doesn't look like a rookie. He looks like a guy who's comfortable up there.
That's what I'm saying. His disposition looks like he's comfortable. He just is getting outraced, straight up getting outraced. And that's okay for your first freaking 250 pro outdoor national series. That's not a bad place to be. And even if he gets shifted back, would he end up in the first moto? 8th?
Let's see. First moto.
He was in the top 10, wasn't he?
I'm not sure.
I don't think he got shuffled out of the top 10.
Yes, he did. 9:13.
So, I mean, starting at what he gets started in 3rd or 4th, and then to not get pushed out of the top 10. And again, as AC always says, those guys race like you slept with your girlfriends, right? I mean, they're not wasting any time. They're getting stuff done. But I said to Michaela, I cannot wait to see Max next year. Another year with the team, another year on seeing these racetracks before, understanding the grind. Obviously, his dad and his uncle. I mean, that's some tremendous toolage going on in that rig.
Absolutely.
But that's all I wanted to add to the 250s. And then the only other thing I'd like to say is Mosman going down Mount Martin. and making that inside line stick. That I rewound that like 6 times. I mean, that gives me goosebumps. That was good.
Well, how about when Jeremy did it for the pass and like jumped in? Oh my God.
But it goes back to, like you say, though, Jeremy knows that. He's probably done it to his brother a million times. For most men on a track that's not really your home track to come down that so convincingly, I have to give him credit. I was just like, that's not the most men that I would have expected to see coming down Martin Mountain.
Yeah.
It was impressive.
And so we've been talking about this for a couple of weeks, and I've been trying to get a hold of the guys at Feld, their media manager, Sean. I'm trying to get a hold of Prater, because I want to kind of find out the whole deal and how it's actually going to affect the series completely with the FIM being gone, or if it's going to, what drug testing is going to be in place, what won't be in place. So bear with us, people. I'm trying to just get the right information. I could get you with half-assed information, but I'm trying to get the right information. So when I have that, I'll come out with it. But then I want to ask you, Coach. Oh, go ahead.
Just real quick on that. I know personally I've received probably 40, 50 different DMs or emails about drug testing and FIM and the new. It's not you and I in a witch hunt. You and I could give 2 shits about drug testing. If they're going to do it right. That's all you and I have ever talked about. If you're going to do the blood testing and the drug testing, just follow it all the way through. I'm just going to leave it at that. If you followed the movie Icarus, you realize there's a lot of semantics with drug testing. But my point is this, messages, DMs, and that's why we're trying to get more information about what does this FIM leaving Supercross, what does that mean? And yes, it does include drug testing, and there are other elements. It's not you and I that are just focusing on drug testing. So just want to make sure maybe we've got some new listeners that are just hearing us for the first time. Like I say, we're not the kind of people that are trying to stir up the stink pot. We're just answering the questions that you guys are asking us to get answers to.
Well, and I also want to be clear too, the AMA that sponsors or that sanctions Supercross, that is not the same AMA that sanctions Outdoor Nationals. Outdoor Nationals is AMA Pro Racing,
right?
And then AMA Ohio, they do the Supercross series. So 2 totally different sanctioning bodies that both use the AMA logo. Fitness. So I was watching these guys, and it just blows me away how they can do a 30-minute plus 2-lap moto on just this heat. They do an interview, and then I saw Tomac almost running to get back to the truck. They got about 15, 20 minutes to cool off and get going again. How the hell do they recover, Coach? What do we do here?
Well, and I've said this numerous times. What I love about the fitness level of a motocrosser, Supercross motocrosser, is think about what we like to do for cross training. Other people consider it their primary sport: rowing, cycling, swimming, running, doing triathlons, mountain bike racing, whatever it may be, right? So when we say that the motocrossers are some of the fittest athletes in the world, I'm not going to bore the listeners, but like when I was at the Olympic Training Center as an athlete, they always say that the Nordic cross-country skiers have the largest volume of uptake of oxygen. We call that VO2 max. There isn't an athlete that's at the Olympic Training Center that has a larger VO2 max than a Nordic cross-country skier. I would love to see some of the telemetry numbers associated with our top guys, because like you say, it's not just being able to go lay down a 30-minute +2. It's only having, like you say, if you make the podium, you've lost another 10 or 15 minutes to get out of your gear, get core temperature down, get some fluids in you, get some electrolytes back into you, top off on blood sugar levels called glycogen, up onto the starting gate. And remember, there's a significant difference between being physically hot and being metabolically warmed up. There's a big, big difference. That's why if you watch the TV coverage, you notice that Christian Craig and Ferrandis were on their specialized bikes on trainers, just like the Tour de France, right? Because there's a difference between being physically warmed up, specifically metabolically warmed up. It's called getting the lactic acid shuffle moving. People go, oh my gosh, big words. No, think about it. If you put our podcast down, or while you're listening to this, and you got out of your truck and you started sprinting around your neighborhood, you know how your legs feel like dead legs immediately?
Yeah.
That's the accumulation of lactic acid. Okay.
And that's from improper warm-up, right?
Warm-up, there's all kinds of neuromuscle hard. Yeah, exactly.
Sorry, you froze there for a second. So you get out of the car, they warm up? What?
like if you got at, like say some of our listeners were just to stop their truck right now and just run down the street as hard as you could, you know how your legs would just load up with that's lactic acid. So what's happening is the blood vessels are all really, really tight, and you're asking them to all of a sudden funnel through. It's kind of like if you could just for illustration purposes, let's say you're revving your 450 up and you could immediately rip the muffler off and put an 85 muffler on there. There's just simply too much going out that the muffler can't get rid of. So it backs up. That's why you notice Christian Craig and Ferrandis, they were warming up on their Specialized bikes on the trainer because they're metabolically warming up. This is what you see in the Tour de France. They warm up for a long period of time so you can kind of treat.
So, okay, hold on. So I live in, 115-degree temperatures.
Yep.
When I just stand in the heat, that doesn't do that?
No, not at all. That just, your body is trying not to die of a heat stroke. That's being physically warm versus being metabolically warmed up. So if you get your bike out of the back of your truck and you get geared up, and let's say you and Hopper at Western just did a gate drop and went guts to the wall, if we took your lap times and then we did it tomorrow and we let you do a 30-minute warm up and we did the same thing, your lap times would be significantly faster. For the listeners, you ever notice how your second set is so much better than your first set? That's why. And it really gets down to a neuromuscular. Let me give you a brief example. If you're in the gym and you're lifting 20 pounds, and then you go to, and you're doing bicep curl, then you go to 25 pounds, then you go to 30 pounds, your brain is going to think, hey, the next weight that Chris lifts is going to be 35, then 40, 45, right? Because your brain at a neuromuscular level. And I use this quite often on podcasts. Have you ever gone into the refrigerator and you thought that the milk was full and you pick up that gallon and it's half empty and you smash it through the roof? That's
Yes.
a neuromuscular message because a gallon of milk weighs 8 pounds. So over the years, there's a neuromuscular message that goes to lift up a full gallon of milk is 8 pounds. You send a neuromuscular message to lift up 8 pounds. When it's empty, you smash it against the roof. This is the same reason why a second set in the gym feels better than the first. And this is why the guys are warming up. You don't want to use the first half of the moto to warm the body up. When the gate drops, you want to have it tricked to thinking you've already been out there for 15, 20 minutes. This is why fitness is so incredibly important for our listeners, because just if the air temperature is hot, doesn't mean that you're metabolically warmed up. So I hope that makes sense.
It does. It does. And it's tricky too, because I've been a person who said, oh, I'm sweating, I'm good.
You're warmed up. Yeah.
But you're not.
And then going back to, like you said, those guys having to cool down, the number one thing you got to do is get out of your gear, because the surface area of your skin is just like your radiator. If you want to bring temperature down, you got to get out to get the athletes underneath a fan, because it's a radiator effect. And like you say, before you know it, they're turning right around, getting geared back up, restaging, you miss your gate selection. So it's a big to do.
And then, so now anything else on that, or should we move on to personal development here, Coach? Did I lose you? That Wi-Fi is rough.
Yeah, just locked up just a little bit. Sorry about that.
Oh, no worries.
Yep,
we're going to move on to personal development, Coach.
Yep, go right ahead.
So a lot of times I struggle. So work is emails, texts. We're doing a Zoom podcast right now. We're doing everything on media these days. Sometimes I need a detox, and I can tell when I'm about to do it. I start to get short with people. I notice it's almost like it creates a little bit of an ADD in myself. And what I'll do is I'll take a weekend, and I just literally, like, you couldn't get a hold of me yesterday. I texted a little bit during the race, and I put it away. I'm done. I'm done with my phone. I'm done with my iPad. I'm done with my computer. And I didn't get them out until I did the notes for this, which is about an hour or two ago. But I have to do that once in a while just to maintain it. And for me, that's how I keep from, I don't know. And it's funny, my kids do the same thing. When they're on the iPad all the time, they get angry. And I'm like, I have to detox them and get them out and do something active. Have you done that? What's your thoughts on that, Coach?
Well, yes, I've done it, and I've done it with some of my athletes. Believe it or not, I'm going to call him out here in a complimentary way. I have a very young rider by the name of Jeremy Fortner. His son, that's the dad. Gavin's the son. And we noticed whenever they hit, the dad and the son would play Fortnite, we could literally see actually, I take that back. It was actually Everett Clark, who you've met. whenever Everett and his dad, Travis, play Fortnite, they could literally see Everett's disposition change. Very aggressive, short-tempered, real. And so we started looking at sleep patterns. We started looking at stress scores. And you would not believe the stress numbers associated with Fortnite, to the point that mom and dad said, look, we're done with Fortnite, right? I mean, it was that significant. For the rest of us, you know, like, I don't play video games. I don't have the attention span. I don't have time in my day to be able to do it. But I've used this before with you. I've used this before on other podcasts, including my own. You've got to remember that our brains are getting wired with 5-second attention spans, whether it's TikTok, whether it's stories on YouTube or Instagram. I'm not picking on any of those platforms. I'm just using them for illustration purposes. In the psychology world, there is more and more research that's coming out that we are seeing premature Alzheimer's because constant influx of information. Very difficult for our brains to be able to take it all in. And so what's happening is it's kind of like a disk drive in the old days when you had 5 1/4 disk drives, where it's just spinning constantly and it catch up.
Your Wi-Fi can't catch up.
And I've used this illustration circuit cities. Yeah. If you go back to the
I'm losing you, coach.
Back to the days of like Best Buy. Is that any better?
Oh, there we go. Yeah, that's better. Yeah, we're back.
Okay. So. I apologize because I haven't moved anything here. If you go back to the days of Best Buy in Circuit City, remember you would go in and there was 100 televisions and they were all on the same channel. What we're teaching our kids today is every one of those TVs has a separate channel. And if you looked at the anxiety level, if you looked at the heart rate, if you looked at the inability to focus because it's just literally information overload, that's what we're doing to ourselves today. And to your point, exactly, like a lot of people get angry at me because I'm not big on Facebook Messenger. This isn't about me, right? But people can watch a video on YouTube. I've got I think I've got like 568,000 views on one of my swim videos. You know, so somebody leaves a comment and asks a question, how does that apply? Well, that's cool. I like to engage with them. That's 500,000 people that have watched it. What if 1% of those people left a comment? Then you have Instagram with direct message. And then, not trying to sound arrogant, but we own companies. Each one of our companies has its own unique email address. So we're getting anywhere between 2,000 and 3,000 emails a day that come in that Jennifer has to seed through those to make sure that we could try to get back. It's information overload. So I thought you did a great job, and I don't ever take it personal because you've warned me about it before. Hey, if I don't get back to you, I'm either at work or I'm with my kids. I'll get back to you as soon as I can. So you do a fantastic job of managing the expectations.
Well, and that's what I tell people. I said, listen, if you text message me, I'm going to get to it when I can. If I text message you, get to it when you can. I don't take it personal. If I need you immediately, I'll call. So there's a fly buzzing me. But yeah, I'll call. If it's something important, I'll call. A text message is for an at your convenience type message, in my opinion, and that's how I treat it. And same with emails. So,
but think about what text messages have become. If I send you a text message, what I'm saying is what I want to tell you and what I need from you is more important than what you're doing right now. And you're there with your son and you're there with your daughter, and I send you a text message and then I'm pissed off that you didn't respond. What I'm telling you is what I need from you is more important than the time you're spending with your kids. And that's wrong.
Yeah, well, then that's what I'm telling you. It's not. In my world, it's not. And when I send you a text message, I'm telling you what I've got is not more important. Get to it when you can.
But that's the conversation and the expectation we've established with one another, because you know how important Michaela and Rhea and Josh and Caleb are.
Absolutely.
But the expectations are being made. I think that's what's one of the biggest problems. Was easy to take it out of context, and we're inundated with too many different ways to communicate with each other. So, you know, if you look at it from that standpoint, like in our Moto E membership area, I have a designated email address specifically for those members, because I know that they're emailing me with a question or something that they need an answer to, not just to talk about something in general, you know. And that's what I think has to happen is you need to be able to manage expectations with someone to say, look, these are the resources I use. Like, don't get mad at me if you send me a Facebook message and it takes me a year to get to it. Cause quite honestly, I don't ever go to that little messenger button. Usually I'll get somebody that says, hey, check your Facebook. I sent you a video. Tim Lawler, our Australian Moto E manager, he does a good job because he'll get videos of our team members, including his son, Richie, and he'll put them up there because it's an easy platform that he can, from Australia to the United States, can get it uploaded and it's easy. But he'll send me a text and say, check your inbox or your messenger or whatever the heck they call it on Facebook.
Yeah,
but
that's perfect.
To your point, exactly. There's too many ways for people to communicate. Somebody might want to communicate with Twitter. You're an Instagram. Somebody wants Instagram. You're YouTube. YouTube might be Facebook. Facebook might be email. So yeah, I think it's just a matter of, and whenever I do respond to a Facebook message and I see some that are up there for 3-4 months, all I can say is I'm sorry, because it's not an area that I check on a regular basis.
Yeah. And that's it. And for me, the detox is about putting my stuff first and just clearing my head. And it's just good. And I think it's healthy. And I would recommend anyone do that. I just feel better afterward. So
yeah, I look forward to the day when it'll be cool to not have a phone, because everything comes full circle, right?
Oh yeah.
You know, the novelty was, you know, to get a phone. Now it's going to be cool to not have a phone. Eventually it'd be cool not to be, you know, my son, Josh, he completely got off of all social. He's not on Facebook. He's not on Instagram. He doesn't even check it on a daily basis.
Good for him.
Well, absolutely. And what was cool is he's in a new relationship. He's moved to Gainesville. He's starting a new chapter in his life. And he started to realize, and he's young, he's only 21 years old. He realized, you start looking at that, you know, on your phone, it'll tell you how much time you're on the screen. And he's like, I could go to the gym and have a great workout with half of the amount of time that I was on the screen. And then the other half the time, McKenna and I can go for a walk, go paddling in our boats, go fishing, just hang out, go for a walk, have whatever that it is, right? Everybody's got the things that they decompress with.
Yeah. And I'm not saying these things are bad. I'm saying they're just like everything in life. It needs to be managed and not overdone. Too much of anything, too much water will kill you. I mean, it is what it is. Well, it just,
it amazes me because, you know, Michaela and I are here in San Diego. We've been here for 2 weeks, and it's just crazy because, you know, we're fortunate enough, like we got to go on a sunset cruise, and it's amazing. You get out on the cruise, right? We're sitting here in the San Diego Bay. It's breathtaking. The sun's going down, and there's 3 couples on the boat. 2 of the couples are sitting there on their phones. Like, why pay to go on a sunset cruise if you're more worried about what everybody else is doing instead of being in the moment? Now, yes, we do put pictures up there, but we do that quite honestly because people say they like to see what we're doing. I don't like to talk about myself. I mean, when I started the Coach Rob and our IT guys, like, you've got to tell people where you're going and what you're doing. I thought it was egocentric, but you know what? I put it up there. I get a lot of positive feedback. I get private DMs asking about where are you at and why did you like it, or did you? And I think that's cool. You know, our job has us traveling a lot, but every time we travel, like, we're here to do Whiskey Throttle videos. That's why we're here. And then while we're here, we did a tri camp, and we're here and we did a running camp, and we did an open water swim. We're with our clients. You know, it's not like us we don't have a lavish lifestyle of traveling and living large. We're working with our clients as we go. But when you ask me, what'd you think about this or that? I was like, well, damn, that's cool. People are using that as an opportunity to learn more about. We were in Vermont 2 weeks ago. Now we're in San Diego. We're going to be home for 2 weeks. We're going to be coming back out, and we're going to be doing camps at Zeb Armstrong's track at Hangtown, a vet specific track. I'm so pumped about it. It's not even funny. And then we're doing one at Riverfront as well. You know, we'll be back in California to do another camp. And, nice. And I want people to understand that, you know, like you say, I'm not saying it's bad. I just think there's got to be a place for it.
Yeah. Balance, just balance on everything. So
absolutely.
Coach, where can we find you this week?
Yep. If you guys don't mind, check out CompleteRacingSolutions.com. I'm really excited. The number of people that have joined our membership area, the membership area, there's 3 different levels. You have a weekend warrior for someone that can only ride on the weekends. We have a full-time riding program, and then we have people that just can't ride at all because maybe bad knees or finances or whatever. So if you're just looking to lose weight, or you want to, you know, win Hangtown here in a couple of weeks, bottom line is we got a program for you. And what's cool is I do a live webinar with all of our members 2 times a month. Gives you guys a chance to ask questions. We always try to have a subject that we discuss and drill down on, but we always want to have an environment where our members can engage with us there. So Check us out at CompleteRacingSolutions.com. And then on YouTube, it's Coach Rob with 2 B's. Coach Rob Beams is the YouTube channel. And we say at each show, there's all kinds of playlists there for you under every category imaginable. Even while we're here in San Diego, we added a couple new ones this week. So please check us out. And as we always say, Chris, even if you're not a paying client, if you've got a question, send it to me, contact@coachrob.com. And as I said earlier, Jennifer will categorize it and we'll get to it as soon as we can. But happy to help. Please don't feel like you have to be paying to get help.
And I do laugh on your YouTube channel. That kickboard video has so many views. It's crazy.
It is nuts. It's a pretty small world.
By the way, I got to hit you up. I'm running low on the energy fuel. This stuff is so awesome. And when it's 120 out, I'm not going to lie. I drink it quite a bit. Just need to stay hydrated. Our buddies at EBC Brakes, clutches, brake pads. They got the sintered brake pads that got extra life to them. They got MX pads, street pads, Harley pads, you name it. They got everything. And Decord, Decor's out there in San Diego. You probably should maybe hit him up. Maybe I'll hit up Danny and see if he can hook up with you. But yeah, Danny's right out there.
I would love that. And Danny's been great. He came on board. He's a big supporter of all of our Moto E teams, co-factory and factory teams. And the layout of the Moto E kits are just phenomenal. So great guy. Good. Love those guys. Yeah, their graphics are unbelievable.
And then our buddies at 24 Speed, not scared to post anything. We love it. Support local moto, #support local moto. They're doing some stuff locally with Isaac and Troy. They're crushing it. So if you want a next level media that's not filtered and it's just, putting what's out there, and these guys truly love the sport. So head on over to 24speed.com, check it out. Those guys will communicate with you, hit them up on social media. They're always active and they're good guys. So Coach, anything else before we take off?
No, good stuff. I am working on getting a better camera. One of our big fans, Kevin Gaver, busted my chops and said, you got to get a camera better, as good as Chris and Hopper. So want to give a props out to Kevin. We're working on that. I was talking to Michaela in our marketing department. So hopefully by the next show, I'll have a different camera and I'll be looking as crisp and clean as you are sitting over there on your couch.
It's funny though, I noticed I almost got up to change the lights because it's getting dark earlier. And I'm like, wait a second, my light went and I just had one light on. So it just went halfway. So I didn't get up and change it, people. I was just like, fuck it. It is what it is. So,
but we're working on it. Thank you so much, listeners. Thank you again for the support. I know we say it every week, but I hope you understand the sincerity of it. Thank you for supporting. Thank you for growing our numbers. Thanks for spreading the word. And we will talk to you next week.
Thanks, Coach.
Peace.